All right, wonderful. Good evening. Today we're learning Maseches Bava Basra Daf Ayin Dal. It's still a block behind. We will catch up in Mirz Hashem, but not today. We are starting about 12 lines down. I see a single dot. First word on the line is Chulios, and we are in the middle of the Rabbi Bar Chana Agaritas. So Ayin Dal and Aleph, 12 lines down. While Rabbi Bar Chana was walking with this Taya, with this Arab merchant, Amar Le, the Arab merchant said, Ta, Achvilach Har Sinai. Ooh, I would love that. Who wouldn't want to have a tour to Har Sinai? So it says the Gemara Azle, they were walking. Chazoy de Hadrele Akrava. There were a lot of scorpions. The Kaima Kichamre Chibrisi, and they were scorpions that apparently were so big that they looked like white donkeys. Shamati Baskol, and then I heard a Baskol, Sheomeres Oili Shenishbati. Nebachan mi HaKadosh Baruch Hu speaking, that I made a shvua, which the Rashbam explains halfway down, Shenishbati min hagalus, K'dichsiv kroi tuva b'nevim, that he had made a shvua that the Jews had to go into galus. Kadosh Baruch Hu is in pain that we're in galus. We think we're in pain. He's in more pain than we are. V'achshav shenishbati mi meferli. Kadosh Baruch Hu asks rhetorically, now that I've made my shvua, I have no one to be mefer my neder. I'm a Kadosh Baruch Hu. What dayan am I going to sit in front of? That doesn't work. Ki asay lekami derabanan. After Rabbi Bar Chana returned from this episode, he brought the story, brought the Maisa to the base medrash, and he said, "I heard a baskol, and this was the baskol." Kadosh Baruch Hu said, "Oili, I'm about the shvua. Who's going to be made for my neder?" And just like we saw yesterday, they bullied him. They said, Amruli, the rabbis said to me, Kol Abba Chamra. Every Abba is a donkey. Remember, we said Rabbi Bar Chana is Rav Abba Bar Chana. So they're Anak, your Abba, what is wrong with you? How could you pass upon this opportunity? And Kol Bar Chana Sichsa. And every Bar Chana is a fool. Just got nothing to lose. Just maybe Kadosh Baruch Hu was giving you he was teeing up the opportunity to end the Gullus and Rabbi Bar Chana. Could you imagine 1,800 years ago, the Amora, Rabbi Bar Chana, in one moment, all Gullus is done. The world would be a different place. No, none of the tzaras for the last 1,800 years. It says the Gemara, what was Rabbi Bar Chana thinking? So the reason why he did this, maybe it had a similar tone to the shua of the mabul, which was a permanent shua that couldn't be shaken. The Rabbanon, they said back to him, if you're right, Imkain, oily lama. By the mabul, there was no oily. He just said, I'm never doing this again. Over here, HaKadosh Baruch Hu is showing, quote unquote, kaviyachol contrition that he gave the shvua the way that he did. So the Gemara seems to conclude that Rabbi Bar Chana was wrong, and he should have been made for neder. For HaKadosh Baruch Hu, and then we wouldn't be in Galus anymore. It's an unbelievable Gemara. Just the opportunity to be made for neder is like he swung and missed. Unbelievable. The stories continue. This merchant clearly knows how to be a tour guide. Amarle, come with me. He says, I'm going to take you to where all of the Eid of Korach are buried. Swallowed by the earth. Chazoi tre bize. He saw two cracks in the ground. V'havuka mafke kutra, and there was smoke, some type of smoke emanating from the two cracks in the ground. Shakal givava de imra. The Taya, the Arab merchant, grabbed a clod of wool, the amshina b'maya, and saturated it in water. Ude atzisa berosha de romcha, and he put it on the head of a spear or on a stick. The aile hasam, and put it into those cracks in the ground. V'chi afik, we're halfway down. When he took it out, it was singed. So remember that he saturated it first to show you how hot it was. It first had to dehydrate, and then it had to burn. So that was what happened. Amar Li, the Arab merchant, said to me again, Rabbi Bar Chana, Atis, I want you to listen. My shamas, what do you hear? The shamas, what he heard is the Habu Amar, and he heard people talking through the cracks in the ground. Moshe v'soraso emes v'hein badoin. Moshe and his Torah are the truth. V'hein, and they are badoin, they are tricksters. They are not the honest people. So what's going on over here was that these were the sons of Korach who weren't quite as bad as Korach v'Adaso. So they were in the ground, but not as deep down as Korach v'Adaso. So the sons were the ones talking. Moshe emes v'soraso. Emes v'hein, the people who are lower than me, badoin. They did something wrong. That's not the way that they should have done things. Omar Li, and then the Taya, this Arab merchant said, Kol tlasin yome, every 30 days, Mahadra Lahu Gehenim Lahacha. Kibasar bekalachas. I don't know what this means. Every 30 days, Gehenim returns to this place like meat in a pot. I'm sorry, I'm not sure how to help you with this. If you look at the Rashbam, he says, Kol tlasin yom kol rosh chodesh, kibasar bekalachas shemhavchen oso kadesh tispasha. So it seems to be from the Gemara that the Rishonim in Gehenim are stirred every Rosh Chodesh. Again, I don't know. Were you going to say something?
Yeah.
I understand, but I don't understand. No, I understand. I understand what the words of the Gemara say. I just don't know what it means. I don't know, what does that mean? But is Gehenim like inside the cracks of earth rotating at a 1 month interval? Because that would not have been what we would have perceived. But again, I'm just saying from the words of the Gemara, it does seem like that's what assuming that this is not allegorical and there really are 2 cracks in the ground with steam. It's a lot of assumptions being made here, and I don't know if any of them are correct. Okay. Anyways, and then every month when Gehenim rolls around to this place, 2/3 of the way down. Let me show you where earth and the ground kiss, where they meet. I actually thought this was, I read somewhere actually. Where did I see this? I can't remember. I read in one of Rabbi Kaplan's books. That's where I read it, I think, where he writes that the Evan Shasia was the first physical presence of the world. And that was where there was a Nashika. But the Gemara doesn't say that here. I don't know. It may be the same Makom without it, but just missing details. Anyways, the Gemara says that Shkalta the Siltoy, again, I don't know what this means. Rabbi Baruch took a basket and Asnachta be Kavsa Dirakia, and he placed it on the window of the Shamayim. Okay. And Adamatzlina, he went to go daven. Adamatzlina and Be'ise, Velo Ashkichise. He was then looking for the basket that he placed on the window of the Shammai, but he couldn't find it. Amina le, I said to the Arab merchant, Ikagan ve'hacha, there's people who are stealing stuff. So says the Gemara, Amar li, no, hi galgala dirakia. That's just the rotation of the heavens. So I guess the world is they're rotating in different ways. I don't know exactly what's going on here, but that's what the Gemara seems to say, that the world is rotating. And dehadar natar ad lemachar ki hashta, should be say ki hashta hachal mishkachas. Now come back tomorrow at this thing. So it's a 24-hour rotation. Exactly. The language is off because it says the rakia is rotating. The language is off. I wonder when we finally realized that we were the ones spinning and not the. I know. Do you know when did we learn that Earth was on the axis and spinning instead of what we would have thought was that everything else is rotating around us? We would have thought we were the center of the universe. Right. But when did that change? I don't know if you.
Well, I think they call that the heliocentric theory. I don't remember anybody. It was all time ago.
This was 1800 years ago. So my assumption is that at that point we still thought we were the center of the universe, and we watched the stars move. We're like, okay, the stars are moving. And if you're a balabas as it relates to astronomy, that's what you would assume. No? You don't feel anything. No? We're doing a full rotation every 24 hours. Yeah.
He lived around like 1200 or something. Yeah.
I was just in his theater today. Wasn't that the name of the theater? The Copernicus Theater? Oh no. Anyways, the Gemara, this is an inexplicable Gemara on its face, but basically Rabbi Bar Chana, yeah?
Copernicus was born in 1473.
That's so late. That's 1,000 years past Rabbi Bar Chana. More, at least, a little bit more. And Copernicus was the turning point, we think?
Wasn't that Galileo?
And there's no question that the assertion of the Gemara is that the environment around Earth is spinning and we are stationary. We have since proved many times over. By now it's ABCs. What they thought was ABCs is not what we think is ABCs. We just.
Also the math for Rosh Chodesh, that was.
Oh my gosh, that's the brilliance. It's incredible. The
decimal.
multiple decimal points.
Yeah.
Yeah, that the lunar month, 29 and a half of a day, and then when they compared it to NASA's number, it was like at least 2 decimal points accurate. That's Mishnayos already. That goes back. That's Har Sinai. But I'm saying like even halachically, it's Har Sinai because we had to keep Rosh Chodesh.
Right.
So it's unbelievable. Yeah. But it's masterful. And the Gregorian,
Somebody once said to me before there was sports and before you went out and looked at the constellations. That's all that there was.
Yeah,
To busy yourself with.
sure. And the Gregorian calendar though is way less accurate. I mean, by many folds, way less accurate than our lunar solar blend. Yeah, but I'm also saying the compensation to get the clock to be right.
That one. Just one there.
That what?
I think in the 700s or 800s, they added the months of July and August.
I didn't even know that.
Yeah, I think it was a 10-month calendar. Yeah, it was a 10-month calendar. So it was like not even close. I don't think it was Pope Gregorian. I think it was Pope Gregory who
That's
changed
how
that.
it started.
Pope Gregorian.
The previous calendar wasn't Gregorian. I thought it's
Julian calendar.
this is a very educated book.
Right, and they just basically numbers of days, they didn't like count.
The Gregorian calendar is 441 years old.
That's young.
Right.
It's not so long ago.
No.
Not at all.
40 years ago.
I
think that you made them just like the leap years.
Between the previous Julian and Gregorian, or between Gregorian and Jewish.
Julian and Gregorian.
That was what he was saying. They added 2 months.
It just came up when Rosh Hashanah.
Yes, the zodiacs and all those things. We discussed this also. Anyways, Eish HaTorah uses this as like a raya brura that a Kodesh Baruch Hu is real. That that there was Torah Shabbat Peh at Har Sinai. Okay, let's continue. We're now shifting from stories from Rabba Bar Bar Chana to stories of Rav Yochanan, but still I got it. So it's 3/4 of the way down, 15 lines or so from the bottom. Rav Yochanan Mishtoi told the story. Zim Nechada Havaka Azlinin Besfinta. He was traveling on a boat. He saw that there was a fish. Ta'afke l'reshe miyama, poked its head up out of the water. The damyan eine kitrei sihare. His eyes looked like 2 moons. The nafutz maya mitarte zime, and there was water flowing from both nostrils. Kitrei mivre de Sura, like the 2 rivers of Sura. Story ends. Rav Safra Mishtai, he tells a story. Zim Nechada Havakazlin in Bisventa. He was traveling on a boat. V'chazina nahu kavra da'afke l'reshe miyama. And there was a fish that poked its head out of the water. V'havale karne, and he had horns. It's not something that you see all too often. And they had something etched into the horns. V'chakik ale, there was etched into the horns the following: Ana beria kala shebiyam. I'm one of the smaller ones in the ocean. Behavina tlas mea parse, and I am 300 parsa long. Beazilna lepuma de Livyasan, and I am going to the mouth of the Livyasan, which we know is the Livyasan. We're going to speak about that a little bit more today. Amar Ravashi, he says, Hahu Iza di Yama. The name of this fish was the Iza di Yama. And Dibechisha, it took its horns, and Rashi says, the Rashbam, says 2 lines from down, Dibechisha, Choferes bayam karnel, Vake Shacham Zanosed, uses its horns to dig in the ground. The Isle Karni, and it has horns. Rav Yochanan Mishtai, Rav Yochanan told the story as well. Zim Nechada, Havaka Azlin and Bisfinta, Bechazina Rahu Kartlisa. I saw that there was a Kartlisa. The Rashbam on the bottom says it's an argaz, a box or a chest. There were wonderful stones and pearls. And there was a type of fish that was watching over this. They were called Mikri Karsha. That's what the Rashbam says. Their name was Karsha, a certain type of fish. According to the side over here, it says Barsha. Again, those are distinctions without a difference as far as I'm concerned. Yeah.
Think about what the Hebrew for shark is. Karesh, Karsha, Karesh, it's the same shark.
A Karish in Hebrew is a shark, yeah. Not the way we spell it.
That's why you probably knew.
Yeah, but it's with a chaf.
Because of your name.
Yeah,
Now-
but I'm gonna tell you, it's very short. For some reason, I had to call Rabbi Kaganoff. You remember who he was? He was an expert in Hebrew names. And my wife asked me to call for something. I introduced myself and I said, Karesh. He says to me, he just interrupted me. Do you know what your name means? And he said, it could be Karish or Shark, or Karesh, the boards, Mishkan.
Right.
And there was something else, I don't remember the third thing. So, but I'm looking at that word and it looks like very similar.
Does the
letters
art
to-
scroll, does anyone have an art scroll? Does it translate it? Do you have the art scroll there? What does it say? The translation of Karsha on the very bottom line of Ayin Dalet Amud Aleph. I wonder if it says shark.
18th story.
Yeah, Rashi doesn't, and the Rashbam doesn't really give any more. Don't know. All right, we'll continue looking. I don't know. That's fascinating.
I don't see it.
So this box was in the water. He said he saw the box in the water. This is like every movie, it's like every movie with a pirate, So then the Gemara says, Nachis bar amorae, borrowed word, it seems. We would have thought that's an amora. That's not correct. The Rashbam says amorae, Adam sheodeh lashut b'mayim, he's a diver, somebody who knows how to swim in the waters. And he went le'asuye to go get the pearls. The ragash, the fish noticed him. Uboy l'shamte le'atme. And this, in line with what my father is recommending, might well be the case. He wanted to bite off his thigh. And of course, when you're a diver, you have a container of vinegar with you, obviously. Bishada zika dechala, he threw a container of vinegar. And that got rid of the animal, got rid of the karsha. The nachas, nafag baskala, and then a baskal came out. Amar lon, my islechu bahade kartalisa didebisu dirib chanina ben dosa. What are you doing with this container that belongs to the wife of Reb Chanina ben Dosa? Total silence from the Rashbam. It's not even fair. Because after all, there's going to be tchelas put in there. I don't know what to tell you. But you got to do research on your own time. He lit the vinegar, actually. The daughter. It was his daughter. She said we have no oil. He said the Kadosh Baruch Hu does nisim. When my nafkamina, go use water, go use vinegar, whatever. She's vinegar, yes. This is his wife. This is not his daughter.
So like he said, was it Rabbi Chanina ben Dosa?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. I'm pretty certain.
He says, by the way, it was the reach. I thought he threw it in his eyes or something. It was the reach that in the ocean that seemed to bother the shark, and he swam away.
Yeah.
I don't know how much vinegar he had.
I don't know. It's like the mailman has this like dog spray that they get the dogs away. This guy he hit a barrel of vinegar just attached to his belt, Unbelievable. Okay, next. 5, 6 slides down, Ayin Dalet Amud Beis. We're going to be heading to the very top of Ayin Hey Amud Aleph. Rabbi Yehuda Hindu. Very interesting name. The Aruch changes it to Handoa, which is something about Targum Shal Yerushalmi. Yeah, it might be from a city. Okay, whatever, that's his name. Mishtai told the story. Zimnachada Hava Azlin Bisfinta. He was on a boat. V'chazina nahu even tava. He saw a very expensive stone. Dahava hadir le tanina, that was being held onto by some type of a sea monster. Nachis bar amorai, a diver went down le asyuha to go try and get it. Asa tanina kaboy le mivla lo svinta. He was not very happy, and the sea monster wanted to eat the whole boat. Asa pishkansa, the same animal that we saw the other day related to sitting on the branch. This pishkansa is a female raven, and no big deal. Paske the reshe, and she cut the head off of the sea monster. Isapichu maya v'habudama. When the animal had its head cut off, there was so much blood, it made the water look like blood. Asa tanina chavrei, then a second sea monster came along, and shakle v'talyale v'chaya. And he took it and he put it on the dead shark, and this jewel revived the dead shark. Hadar asa kaboy. Then the diver wanted to go get it again. Bala, the svinta, and then the sea monster wanted to swallow the ship again. Hadar asa tzipra. The bird came back in paske the reshe and killed the second sea monster. And then shaklu alehahi even tava. and then the diver actually got his hands on the Evan Tava, and then he made a mistake. Shajul the cement, he threw it onto the boat, but where did it land? There were some dead fish that were salted, but he threw this thing, which is Mechayim Esim, he threw this thing onto the dead fish. Then they were cut into they revived, then they took the jewel and they flew off. I'm not even going to try. Rabban, 3 lines down into the wide lines. Ma'aser Rabbi Elazar, Rabbi Yeshua, Shayibayim Besvina. They were on a boat. By Rabbi Elazar Yashen, Rabbi Yeshua Neor. Rabbi Elazar was sleeping. Rabbi Yeshua was sleeping. Nizdazea Rabbi Yeshua. Rabbi Yeshua, who was awake, started trembling. Rabbi Yeshua Neor. Nizdazea Rabbi Yeshua. And Venina Rabbi Elazar woke up Rabbi Eliezer. What is going on with you, Yoshua? Why are you trembling? I saw a very bright light in the water. Perhaps you saw the eyes of the Livyasan. Because we have a pasuk in Sefer Iyov that says the Einav or Einav Ka'af Apei Shachar. It really is Ve'einav. But it says eyes are like the eyelids of the morning, and the morning is bright. The eyelids are therefore bright, namely that the eyes of the Leviathan are very bright. Amar Ravashi, Amar Lihuna Bar Nasan, Zim Nachada Havaka Azlinan b'Madbira. We were in the midbar. We had with us Atma de Basra Bahadan. We had the thigh of an animal, and Pesachna, we opened up the back leg of the animal, Vinakrina. We know that there's an issur of eating the sciatic nerve, the Gid Hanashe. In Shulchan Aruch, even technically speaking, it can be done. We just don't do it because it's very complicated. As far as I know, we don't do it. But there's a process called Nikur Hagid Ve'achelev, where one with a very, very talented skill is able to remove the chelek of issur from. We're not even used to this bichlal. We're not used to this. If you shecht an animal, as far as we know, the whole darn thing is kosher. We don't think about it. But I've shared this story before. When I was in Grus, we went to a shlacht house. The back half of the animals went to the Arabs. The front half of the animals went to the Jews. They cut by the waist so that we got all the belly, all the ribs, everything like that. They were thrilled. We were thrilled. Shalom Yisrael, everyone. So this guy did Nikur Agid Ve'achelev. And then Ve'anchona Isvei. Then they rested this animal, the thigh of the animal, where they just did Nikur Hagid Ve'achelev. They put it down on some herbs, some grass. Adamaisin on Sivei. By the time they had returned in order to get some wood, sive is like firewood. Chalam itma, the itma was healed. The animal wasn't alive. They did nikra gid bechel. The animal was dead already, but the flesh closed up beautifully after the nikra gid bechel, after it was dead. Vitzavinan, they roasted it, and kihadron lebasar tresar yarche shota. When they came back 12 months later, chazinu lahanu gomre, they saw that the coals that were used to cook the animals, they're Havuka melachshe, that they were still hot, that they were still putting off some kind of heat. When they got to a memar, Amarli, he said, Hahu isva samteri hava. The isva is a magical type of asev. It's called samteri. And the Rashbam says about 15 lines down, 20 lines down, Dibra Maskil, samteri. Asev shemechaber. So some type of asev that can bind things together, a bonding agent, as we'd call it in modern parlance. And what about the fact that the coals were still lit? And hanhu gomre de risma havu, the risma, they're from a rosem tree. The ein gechalam, the Rashbam says, she'ein gechalav kabin mehira. They maintain their heat for a very, very, very long time. Okay, let's continue with things we don't understand. Kadosh Baruch Hu created the large sea monsters. Over here, Targimu are Zile de Yama, the Re'aim, as we saw over the last couple of days. We've seen this now for the 3rd time. This was some type of animal of the Yam, which was the Taninim HaGedolim. Rav Yochanan Amar Zeh Livyasan Nachash Beriach, Livyasan Nachash Akalason. There was a snake that was straight, and there was a snake that was twisted, a snake that was curved. We really need the rest of the pasuk here. So there the pasuk says expressly that we're dealing with multiple sea monsters. One is a snake that is straight, one is a snake that is curved. We're halfway down. Simon, in the parentheses, Kol, Shah, and Yarden. Omar, Rabbi Yehuda, Omar Rab. Everything that a Kadosh Baruch Hu created was initially created with male and female components. Each of them were male, female. If they were to be intimate with one another, because of how large the animals were, their children would be even larger. And machriv kol olam kulam. That's not a game plan. You can't have monstrosities of animals living anymore. You can't do that. So ma'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu sirei sesazacha v'harag hanekeva u'malcha letzadikim lasid lava. The male tanin was made sterile, and the female was killed, and the meat was salted to save for the tzadikim lasid lava. Shene'emar v'harag es hatanin asher bayam ve'af behemos. Sorry, let me just put a period there. That's how we know that the animal was killed and saved for meat, but they couldn't copulate. They couldn't have children, these two. Even animals, these are also, I don't know if they're mythical creatures, but they're in the same camp as Livyasan. They were also Zachar Nekeva Vilmalin Iskakin Zelazeh. If they were to have cohabited and had children, they too would have destroyed the whole world, because their children would have been just gigantic, would have been overwhelming. As we've seen over the last couple of days, you have these fish that have two fins, and it's hundreds of miles from one fin to the next, unfathomable. The blue whale I think that's the biggest one we have. I mean, it's like so large, it's unfathomable. I think their heart is 400 pounds. I think I read recently that their heart. It's not surprising considering they weigh many tons, but
We were in Alaska some years ago. There were humpback whales that weighed 80,000 pounds. Wow, this is unbelievable.
80,000.
Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if the heart weighed 400.
no,
It's a small fraction of.
it's a small fraction. It's actually a smaller percentage than our hearts relative to our bodies. Probably. Man, that's a hard-working muscle. But they were mostly eating plankton, so I don't know how they gained all that weight in the first place, but
It is interesting that we still use both of those words,
what?
Leviathan and Tani. Yeah.
In modern Hebrew?
Yeah.
Oh, how do we use them?
Leviathan is a whale.
Modern Hebrew?
Tanin is an owl.
I didn't know that.
Tanin is
No, with a nun at the end. Tanin.
Tanin.
I did not know either of those words were used. I only know them from like the psukim, from like I think in Rosh Chodesh we said V'ligasan whatever. L'sachek bo. Yeah, we're actually going to see that pasuk in a second, but okay. So Ma'asa Kadosh Baruch Hu, in this case, he did something different with the behemos than he did with the taninim. What did he do? Sireis hazachar, that's the same, but v'tzinein hanekeva v'shamar l'tzadikim la'asidavu, made cold. That's just a different treatment of sorts. It was made cold, seemingly, I guess, that it's not interested in intimacy, something along those lines. We're going to see soon why the animal wasn't killed like we saw before. Shenemar hine na kocha b'masnov, that's the zachar. Ve'ono b'shurei bitno zunakeva. So asks the Gemara, why did you distinguish between the behemos b'harurei elef and the taninim? Hasam nami lisra se l'zachar v'litzna ne l'nakeva. We should do the same thing by the taninim. Why didn't we do that by the taninim? That we should just not kill the female, keep the female alive, and just make the female disinterested in intimacy, make it cold. It says the Gemara. Dagim pritze. When it comes to fish, they're parrots. They don't really have a lot of discipline when it comes to intimacy. So therefore, just saying that making the animal is going to be cold and disinterested is not l'maisa. It's just not the way they function. Why don't you switch it then? Why don't you make the female an islandess and make the male meat? Why don't you do it that way? It says the Gemara, perhaps the female salted tastes better. And It's not the right. It's not from. It's not the right way to talk because the pasuk says in Tehillim l'sachek bo that the livyasan zeyotzar to l'sachek bo. So to use a language of to play, to be playful with the livyasan, that's not the way that one should speak. A man speaking about a woman, a Kadosh Baruch Hu is speaking about a female. That's not correct. So we don't do that. Ask the Gemara, Hachanami limlechen lenekeva. What? Dagim pritze. Masachek bo. Shah revis yoshev masachek.
What does the Kadosh Baruch Hu do all day long? It would be awesome, so that would be inappropriate, so therefore it had to be the Zachar.
Yeah, I didn't see that. I mean, it's what the Gemara said, but the detail is pretty remarkable.
That was my point.
Yeah. Yikes. We haven't learned about Azor yet. Okay, we'll get there soon. So then the Gemara says, Lim lechel nekeva. Why don't we salt the female in the case of the livyasan? Says the Gemara, Kabra malicha male, because when you have fish, it tastes better. I'm sorry, other way. Lim lechel nekeva. Why don't we kill and salt the behema? And why is it that we just make it soning? So the Gemara says, because Kabra malicha male, salted fish tastes great, but Bisra malicha lo male. But salted meat, okay, nebach, you have to salt it, but it kills the flavor. Good. 2/3 of the way done, maybe a little bit more. Beginning of the line. Amar Rav Yehuda Marav. V'shar shebikesh HaKadosh Baruch Hu livros es ha'olam. Amar lo l'sar shel yam. He says to the sar shel yam, the officer of the sea, Psach picha uvala kol meimos sheba'olam. There's no land. There's way too much water. I need you to drink up enough water, the sar shel yam, to make sure that the ground will sprout forth. So the Sar Shel Yam says, Amar Lefanav Ribono Shel Olam, Dai she'emod b'sheli. I can't. He's like, I have so many other responsibilities. I have all the rivers that stream into the oceans. I have to drink up that water. He's like, I can't drink any more water. I'm out. So Miyad, Kadosh Baruch Hu is Bad Bo v'Hargo. Kadosh Baruch Hu kicked him and killed him. Shne'emar, as the pasuk says in Eov. The pasuk says, B'chocho raga hayam. With his strength, he calmed the waters. Ubisfunaso machatz rohev, and with his wisdom, he hit rohev. So says the Gemara, Amar Rav Yitzchak Shma Mina Saro Shal Yam Rahab Shmo. That his name was Rahab, Rohev. Yilmale Mai Mechasim also, and if not for the fact that when HaKadosh Baruch Hu killed the Saro Shal Yam, if it wasn't covered by water, Ein Kol Beria Yechol Lamod Berecho, no one could handle the stench of the Saro Shal Yam. As the pasuk says, this pasuk can be found in Yeshaya. The pasuk says, "Lo yareyu, v'lo yashchisu, v'chol har kodeshi kamalar zdea, es Hashem kamayim layam mechasim." That the water has to cover it. Al tikri liyam mechasim. Don't read it liyam mechasim. Ella l'sara shel yam mechasim. What the pasuk is referring to, beremez, is that it's covering the saro shel yam. This is again a mythical creature, a real creature. I don't know. Probably mythical based on what it seems like, and what the Gemara says is that that this animal was killed and kept underwater, otherwise it would smell too bad. Amar Rav Yehuda Amar Rab Yarden Yotze Mima'aras Pamyas. According to some, this is the Banyas, and this is actually a trail that I've personally walked many times. I'm sure many of us have the Banyas trail. And that's what feeds the Jordan. It goes in the Yam of Sivchi, V'Yam Shel Tveria, Umiskalgel V'Yored the Yam Agadol. It goes down to the Mediterranean, Miskalgel V'Yored Ach Magil Piv Shel Livyasan, and it goes all the way down until it feeds the mouth of the Livyasan. Shene'emar, as the pasuk says, a pasuk in Eov. The pasuk says, Yivtach ki Yogiach Yarden es Pihu. So this is a pasuk that somehow refers to the fact that the Livyasan's at the end of this water. Maskif lo Rabbi Bar Ula. Hi, this pasuk of Yiftach was bebehemos b'harei elef ksiv. That wasn't talking about the Livyasan. It was talking about the behemos b'harei elef. Alama Rabbi Bar Ula. Emasai behemos b'harei elef betuchos. When does the behemos b'harei elef? When do they feel sure that they're going to stay alive? Only bisman she megiach yarden bepiv shel Livyasan. Only when the waters pour into the mouth of the Livyasan. That way, this is a mythical war that's going to happen between the Behemoths, the Harei Elef, and the Livyasan. And as long as water is pouring into the mouth of the Livyasan, then everyone is going to be safe. No fighting. 6 lines from the bottom, Simin, Yamim, Gabriel, Ra'iv, and we're going to be stopping 4 lines down at the top of Ayin Hamid Aleph. Kiyasa Ravdim Yam Rav Yochanan. My dechsiv, what does the pasuk in Tehillim mean that says Kihu al Yamim Yesada ve'al Neharos Yichoneneha? What does it mean that it is on the waters that it is founded and on the rivers that it is established? So says the Gemara, Elu Shiva Yamim, there are 7 bodies of water, ve'arba Neharos, and 4 rivers, Shema Kifen es Eretz Yisrael, that surround Eretz Yisrael. Ve'elu Hein Shiva Yamim, here are the 7 bodies of water, Yama Shel Tveria, V'Yama Shel Stom, V'Yama Shel Chelas, which according to some is actually a reference to Eilat, which is a fascinating argument, again, as we've discussed many a time, that there's a machlokas aposkim if Eilat is included in Eretz Yisrael as it relates to Yom Tov Sheni Shel Galios. This is a riot to the other direction, that this is included. V'Yama Shel Chelsa, of sand, V'Yama Shel Sibchi, V'Yam Aspamya, V'Yam Hagvadol. Those are all of the larger bodies of water. Ve'eluhein arba neharos Yarden, V'Yirmoch, V'Kirumion, Ufiga. These are the 4 of them that are the rivers. Kiyasir of Dimi, last line, Amar of Yonasan, Asid Gabriel, La'asos, Kinigya, Im Livyasan. Kinigya is hunting. Take a look at the Rashbam on the top of Ayin Hamid Aleph. Tzedas, Chayos, Bekeshes, V'Romach, Al Kolmine, Tzeda Karuikin. This is any method by which you can hunt. Shene'emar, as the pasuk says in Eov, our pasuk, the Gemara quoted here is not what the pasuk says. Our pasuk says, our Gemara says Tim Shoch, but the actual language is just Tim Shoch, Liv Yasan, Bechaka, Uvechevel, Tashkia, Leshono. These are different tools with the Chaka and with the Chevel. Bilmale HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ozra, but without HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help, so then this Gabriel, the Malach Gabriel, is going to have a battle with the Liv Yasan. Without HaKadosh Baruch Hu's help, Bilmale HaKadosh Baruch Hu Ozra, Ein Yacholom. Shene'emar, as the pasuk says in Eov, the pasuk says, Ha'oso Yagesh Charbo. He has to bring his sword, but he won't be able to kill with that sword. He's going to need a Kodesh Baruch Hu. It's just too big of a battle. We're going to stop right here, 4 lines from the top of 4 lines down from the top of Ayin Hamid Aleph. And Yirtzeh Hashem will be able to at least get an Amud Aleph tomorrow. I would have loved to have done that today, but it's just a big Amud. So Yirtzeh Hashem will get to that tomorrow. Wishing you all a beautiful night.